You are in the jungle. I'm Matt Edwards. If you are watching on YouTube, we are on the couch today as we continue to get that studio up and going. It's not really much of a studio. You'll see, but in the next week or two, we should be ready to go. It is game week. It is Tuesday afternoon as of recording this, which means we are 2 days and a few hours. I'm not great at math away from 55 hours is what it is from that AFC Championship rematch between the Kansas City Chiefs. They will be the host, taking on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Going to be a lot of fun. Things get rolling. We had a Friday night game this year, which I totally forgot about until like 2 days ago. So Labor Day, man. Labor Day's where it's at. You get there, and then from there, everything is smooth sailing. You go right into the season. College football gets its revved up a little bit. You see the graphic, especially with the Big Ten being on CBS this year. I got to see that graphic. They had Joe Burrow up there. He was the guy, and then a couple other smaller players behind him, but that was cool to see. But we're there. We are there. It is here, and it'll be gone before we know it. So let's cherish it. Let's enjoy it a little bit. Today is one of my favorite episodes of the year, favorite things to do of the year anyways, where I went through last night all 255 games, whatever it is, and picked every single one for every team. What I come up with is I then add them up. I go down this little sheet of paper that we're going to get to in a minute and pick the divisions. I use that math to figure out who is going to be in the playoffs, who's going to be seated where, all that fun stuff, and we're going to go over that today. First things first, so a little housekeeping on the Bengals end of things. What have we learned this week? Well, one, we're keeping an eye on the Jamar Chase situation. Jamar Gate, we'll call it. I guess it's not a gate. Jamar Watch, we'll call it. Let's scratch that first one. And nothing new as of right now. We're recording this Tuesday. On Monday, he was at practice in street clothes. I don't know. On my other podcast, Old Sports Stories, Jed DeMusi asked me what my confidence level was right now of Jamar playing in Week 1 against New England. I put it at 75%. I still don't think he's going to want to miss any games. But at the same time, I never thought it would get this far, right? I said that last week, that's when I would start to worry. And of course, he practices a week ago today, and then the next day he doesn't. So we'll see where things are at. He is 1A. He's what everyone's keeping a story or keeping tabs on. He's on the front page of the newspaper there. Just totally botched whatever I was trying to say there. You get it. Jamar's the big story. That's what we're keeping an eye on. And then yesterday, Zach Taylor telling us that Dax Hill will start at cornerback. So that's a thing. I think in one of the early episodes this week, I pointed out whoever cornerback 2 is, and I thought it'd be DJ Turner, as I think 2 months ago, probably everyone thought it would be DJ Turner. Whoever that is, if they can really have a season, that could make such a big difference in this team. You need a couple guys who nationally aren't that well known now to step up, and maybe Dax Hill is that guy. Looked excellent there in the preseason, so we'll see what happens there. Between him and DJ Turner, you feel like you have some good depth on those outside corners for the first time in a while. And, of course, we all feel pretty good about what Mike Hilton will do in the slot. So a lot of moving parts. Trent Brown will start at right tackle. Amarius Mims, the rookie out of Georgia, still working through that pec injury. Kind of unclear how much that had to do with it. But at any rate, you want that veteran coming in there first. Let the rookie heal up all the way, learn a little bit. And, of course, Trent Brown's had some injury concerns himself. So, all right, I fumbled through the Bengals stuff there a little bit, but it's too exciting. I want to get to the stuff. I want to get to picking every single one of these games. It's difficult. We know the turnover on average, the field turns over by about 50%, meaning, 14 teams go in 2023. We're now in 2024. In all likelihood, 7 of the same ones will make it, but 7 new ones will come in. I didn't quite have 7. I think I actually only had 3 new ones, and I don't love that. But, the NFC especially. I had 3 new ones in the AFC, with the Bengals being 1. We'll obviously get to that. The NFC, who else are you going to put in there other than the teams we've had? But let's go through them here. So we'll start in the NFC because I know this is mainly an AFC crowd we're talking to here. I don't love any of these. I never do. Anyone who does this and feels good about it has not done it enough, because you see all of the monkey wrenches that can get thrown in your plans. You see just how many little injuries, tip passes, those sort of things will come to bite you in the rear end. So in the NFC, at the 1 seed, We've got, hailing from Green Bay, Wisconsin, the Packers. I've got them going 12-5, winning that division. Detroit, I'm rooting for you, but that first place schedule going to be rough, and Green Bay taking that. We'll get to Detroit in a second. We call that a tease. The reigning NFC champion San Francisco 49ers, I've got at the 2 seed at 11-6. Third, I've got the Cowboys at 11-6 as well. By the way, Cowboys, I feel like I've mentioned this every episode. Aside from Kansas City, the last 3 years have the most regular season wins in the NFL. They just can't get over that hump in the playoffs. Probably won't this year either. The 4 seed, I've got Tampa Bay. A lot of people love Atlanta. I don't know why. Rookie head coach, 36-year-old quarterback coming off a torn meniscus. I don't know why. Baker Mayfield, not great, but he's good enough in that division to win it. 5 seed, I've got Detroit at 11-6. The fellow Jungle Cats holding strong, getting back to the playoffs. At the 6 seed, I've got Philadelphia. And at the 7 seed, the Los Angeles Rams going 10-7. So in the NFC, again, Green Bay, San Francisco, Dallas, Tampa Bay, and then the wild cards, Detroit, Philadelphia, and the LA Rams. We'll stick with that. And then with these AFC teams, we'll get a little more in depth because, again, I know that's what people listening to this podcast want to hear about. So, first things first. You're not going to like my 1 seed. I've got the 1 seed as the Kansas City Chiefs. I've got them going 12-5. I really think they're going to come out motivated. This team and the players on it have accomplished a lot, and it's easy to get complacent. But they're going for the three-peat, right? Like that, pretty much from the time the clock ended in overtime and they hoisted that third Lombardi for this core of guys, they made it clear they want to win 3 in a row. They're going to be motivated this season to get that 1 seed. 2, also going 5-12 in the AFC, I've got your Cincinnati Bengals. I've got them at 12-5. If I pull out the schedule here, that's the thing for them. You look at how tough the AFC is. The Bengals' schedule, after last year having a historically difficult schedule and still going 9-8, this year they get Joe Burrow back. I mean, just the schedule is so much easier compared to the teams that they're really competing against. So we've got 1 seed Kansas City, 2 seed Cincinnati. So at the 3 seed, let's start there. I've got Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo's schedule, they're obviously not an AFC North team, but they have a stretch in there. Okay, so we all know if Rodgers plays, the Jets are going to be good. Miami looked pretty good, made the playoffs last year. Right there's 4 tough ones. Throw on top of that the first place schedule. You've got to go to Baltimore. You've got to go to Seattle out west to a pretty good Seahawks team. You've got to go to Los Angeles and the Rams. You've got to go to Detroit. This is Buffalo we're talking about here. You host San Francisco. Like, the Bills have a 4-game stretch where they take on Kansas City, San Francisco, the Rams, and then the Lions. None of those are division teams, and that's in a really good division. So I've got the Bills at 10-7 taking that 3 seed. They do have a very, I don't know about easy, but they got New England 2 of the last 3 and the Jets at home, so they should be able to finish strong. But, by the way, these little gambling books they send you in the mail, very good to kind of keep track of the schedules and stuff, easier than doing it on the computer. So, 1 seed, Chiefs, 2 seed, Bengals, 3 seed, Bills, right? Those are the teams we know. Those are the teams we've come to expect as the 3 powerhouses in the AFC. 4 seed, maybe I just like Jungle Cats a little too much. I'm going with the Jaguars. Everyone loves Houston. I do too. I just think, Jacksonville went 9-8 last year. I've got them at 10-7 this year. I just think maybe Houston is going to have a bit of a sophomore slump. I think they've got a bright future with C.J. Stroud, DeMeco Ryan, and look, that defense is excellent as well. But I don't see them kind of replicating that. They're not going to catch anyone off guard. Tyler Boyd's not going to drop a game-winning pass against them this year. Like, I just don't see a situation where they come back and kind of live up to the expectations that have been set on them. And the obvious comparison is what the Bengals did in 2021 with Joe Burrow. I don't see it happening. We'll find out. But I kind of want to go out on a bit of a limb and pick the Jags there to win the AFC South. So those are your division winners. Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, Jaguars. 5, I said all along, if Lamar and Burrow are both healthy, whoever doesn't win the division is going to be the 5 seed. So at the 5 seed, I've got Baltimore going 11-6. And they look, that's another schedule. Let's just look at it real quick here. So for Baltimore, it's just brutal. Open at Kansas City. Okay. Vegas, they stink. That'll be fine. But then Cowboys, Bills, Bengals. So 4 of Baltimore's first 5 are the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Bills, and the Bengals. I mean, it's just tough, man. It's a tough schedule. So I think they're talented. They're as talented as anyone. They also go to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. They host the Eagles. They've got to go to Houston, second to last game of the year. Just a tough schedule for the Ravens. So hopefully that can benefit the Bengals and give the Bengals a home playoff game. But I don't see a situation where, with a healthy Lamar Jackson, where the Ravens are not up there in the playoffs. 6th seed, again, I'm banking on health, probably a little too much here. But if Aaron Rodgers plays all 17 games, I think we forget. I mean, he's 3 years removed from being the MVP of the league. I know he's old. I know he's coming off the Achilles tear, but that defense is excellent. Everyone loves Breece Hall, so we'll see what happens there. But I've got the Jets taking that 6th seed. Peter Schrager, who I really like and respect, did not put the Bengals in, but also had the Jets as a 1 seed in the AFC when he released his this morning. So interesting there. Maybe that living in New York getting to the mind a little bit of a homer pick. But I don't know. Schrager is as good as it gets when it comes to predicting this stuff. I've got him at the 6th seed. And then at the 7th seed, the aforementioned Houston Texans. I've got them going 9-8. That division, Anthony Richardson's health will go a long way. The Titans, I wish the best for Brian Callahan and Tyler Boyd and Chidobe Awuzie, but I just don't see them doing much. So those are my AFC playoffs. Chiefs at the 1 seed, Bengals at the 2 seed, Bills at the 3 seed, Jaguars at the 4 seed, and the Ravens at the 5 seed. 6, we've got the Jets. 7, we've got Houston. So there's my very nice handwriting. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll hold it up to the screen there, and that's how it goes, right? So that's fun. So here's how I've got it shaken out. And this is it's all hard. It's all for fun. It's all sports stupid, and none of it matters. But here's how I've got these things shaken out. Wild card round, your Cincinnati Bengals hosting and defeating the Houston Texans. I've got a lot of road upsets. I don't know if there'll be upsets, but I think this one will be. I've got the Jets winning in Buffalo. I just feel like if Rodgers makes it this far, he's got so much postseason experience. The rest of that team will be so ready to kind of, insert themselves into this AFC kind of top of the hill type teams. So I've got the Jets going into Buffalo and winning. I've got Baltimore winning in Jacksonville, which I don't think anyone would think is a surprise. Over to the NFC. Probably my bigger upset would be the Rams beating the Niners. Look, man, I think if you're an AFC North fan, you kind of saw this with John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin for years, right? I think it's the same thing with Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. They're undoubtedly 2 of the top 5 head coaches in the NFL, and I think it doesn't necessarily matter. It does matter, but they're going to find ways to beat the other one when it shouldn't happen. We would see this all the time with the Steelers and Ravens. The Steelers would somehow run Byron Leftwich out there and end up with a 13-9 win. I think it's a similar. I think that Shanahan and McVay is the new Harbaugh Tomlin, and I think we are going to see games go ways that maybe most people think they wouldn't. So I've got the Rams getting a big upset in the first round, the 7 seed knocking out the 2 seed, and Los Angeles moving on in the playoffs. I've got Dallas beating their division rival Eagles in round 1. Nick Sirianni might be the end for him. We'll see what happens. And then Detroit, I couldn't do you dirty. You're the 5 seed, and I've got you going to Tampa and winning against the 4 seed. So that's 1, 2, 3. I've got 4 of the 6 wildcard games going to the road team. So that sets up these divisional round matchups. That sets up the Jets going to Kansas City, and it sets up the Ravens coming to Cincinnati. We just saw this one 2 years ago. We remember the Sam Hubbard rumble in the jungle. Could it happen again? Over in the NFC, we'll have the Rams going into Green Bay, who I had as a 1 seed. We'll have the Lions visiting Dallas, a little Thanksgiving divisional round matchup. We'll call it that. They both play on Thanksgiving. You get where I was going with it. So, again, trying to go out on a bit of a limb here. I've got the Jets. I've got Aaron Rodgers, who has never gone head-to-head with Patrick Mahomes going in there and winning. Do I have any great reasoning for this? Well, there's some. The Jets are very talented on defense, as much as people want to talk about Rodgers. And he's been there. He's played in these cold weather games. He's not always been as successful as he would like to, but the old man can still sling it until I see him completely gone. And maybe I'm rooting for the fun storyline a bit as well. I'm going with the Jets upsetting the Chiefs in the divisional round and the Bengals. I'm going to pick them to beat Baltimore because that would set up a Jets at Bengals AFC championship. An AFC championship in Cincinnati. Maybe I'm just kind of, what's the word? I'm trying to create my own fantasy world here. Maybe, I don't know. At any rate, I think this is all reasonable because there is no reason when it comes to trying to predict the NFL. Over in the NFC, another big upset. I've got the 1 seed going down here as well. I like the old guys. Maybe I like the old guys too much because I've got Matt Stafford going into Green Bay where he's played a ton with Detroit and getting a win. And then I've got Detroit beating the Cowboys. Maybe the journalist in me here is rooting for the storylines too much because this sets up a Detroit-Los Angeles NFC championship. So we'll see that game this Sunday night on Sunday Night Football. Rams, Matt Stafford and company going back to Detroit. They played an excellent playoff game against each other. I think that was in the wild card round. And I've got it happening again week 1 and then week 21 at that point. So I've got these two facing off again. That will be in Detroit. That is a 7 seed versus a 5 seed NFC championship. Do you realize how dumb I'm being with these picks? But it's all for fun, right? None of it matters. And then in the AFC, I've got the Jets coming to Cincinnati. I've got the Bengals winning that one. That's where the road runs out. But what a run that would be if Rodgers were to go through Buffalo and Kansas City. Time will tell. And then look, over in the NFC, last year Detroit won a close one. It looked like Stafford and company were going to come back and win it. This year I've got the Rams winning it. So I've got the 7 seed Rams making a run to the Super Bowl, getting hot at the end of the year. And I've got them going to New Orleans to take on the Bengals. Where, look, we saw these two play in Super Bowl 56. I like the Bengals. I'm going to be rooting for the Bengals. But the Rams, if they've gotten this far and kind of figured out what to do, is Cooper Kupp back healthy? Is Puka Nacua doing what we thought he would do again? Have they figured out a way to fill that massive, massive void left by Aaron Donald? And I think if they can do all that, they will have an incredible season, and they will end up as the NFC champions, but fall eventually to the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl. What are we at? Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans this fall. So there it is. Is it a bit of a homer pick? Of course. It's sports. It's goofy. It's what we're supposed to do. And look, man, I think everyone knows as long as number 9 is on the field, there's no reason that the Bengals aren't right in there in the mix with everyone else. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. I say it probably too much. It's not a fun topic to talk about, but it really comes down to who's going to be healthiest once you get to January. And if the teams I mentioned here are healthy, there's no reason none of them have a shot. I hate not having any different NFC teams than last year. I really do. But who else do you put in? It's like, you can put in Seattle maybe. Some people pick Chicago and Caleb Williams. Chicago just trips over their own 2 feet way too often. So will the Giants have a resurgence? I don't know. They were just in the playoffs and really ascending 2 years ago. There's a million things that can happen. But in the half hour I took to sit down and rapidly pick all these games, this is what happens. I've got the Bengals getting revenge on the Rams and winning Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans this February. So there it is. There you have it. Probably a meaningless exercise, but one that everyone loves to do this time of year. So we got that in. What else do we need to talk about? We kind of touched on things at the top of the show as far as Jamar Chase goes and the new starters. We'll figure those out. The Bengals name their captains. We do have a broadcast crew for round 1. It will be Ian Eagle and Charles Davis, as you might expect, one of the top teams, which will be the case for the Bengals all year long as number 9 is out there. So will be the top broadcast teams in the league. So the thing with Jamar that we're thinking about here is, will he play week 1? Will he get a deal done before week 1? People we know last year, it's been said plenty at this time, that on the Thursday before the Lions and Chiefs got ready to kick off, they announced Joe Burrow, new deal. I don't know that they intentionally were like, hey, let's, take some attention away here. But they've got time to get this done. I don't think Jamar would be out there practicing if negotiations weren't going in the right direction. I shouldn't say practicing. I don't think he would be out there at practice if the negotiations weren't trending in a direction he's happy with. He went through some stretches yesterday. What we see from here on out, the Bengals are going to have to, I said it before, you make exceptions for exceptional players. The Bengals don't typically guarantee that money beyond the first year, right? They typically don't extend rookies after that third year. These are all things that the team is going to have to adjust to if they want to keep a guy who's one of one. So it seems like they are willing to bend some rules, bend some traditions they've had here. But as this thing lingers on, they got to figure something out, because you got too many guys here who, I don't need to tell anyone to listen to this podcast. The window is now, and it's easy to say. I love Joe Burrow saying the window is my whole career, and I tend to agree with him. But you don't get this version of Jamar Chase your whole career. And maybe you get him for a few years if you're lucky, 5, 6. But this guy, I've been pretty open about I'm okay with not extending T. Higgins for several reasons. He's banged up more than I think anyone wants to admit. He also, the receivers now, the Bengals have been so good at drafting receivers, and I think we all know that's what they're trying to do with Jermaine Burton. They've been so good at finding receivers in the draft that why pay one top-flight money unless he's Uno, unless he's Jamar Chase, unless he's that one-of-one guy who we're not talking about. All due respect to T. Love T. Hope he becomes a Hall of Famer. And if he does it in Cincinnati, I'm fine with it. But I can understand if the Bengals don't want to extend him. I cannot understand them not finding a way, because there's such levels of receivers. Jamar Chase is top of the mountain. Him and Justin Jefferson. There's some other guys you can argue that are up there. Those two are 1A and 1B. There's no doubt about that in my mind. So you got to find ways to make these things work. That's why those guys in the front office make big bucks, and they should be able to make it happen. So at this point, the Bengals should have no problem with the Pats in week 1. The Chiefs is what you kind of worry about. You want him out there for that game. You know he wants to be out there for that game. So there is some incentive to make sure that this thing gets cleared up soon. I don't know how they're going to do it. There's a lot of people who like to pretend they know how they're going to do it. There are some people who probably do know how it will be done if it gets done. But right now, you feel pretty good about what the Bengals are going to put out there week 1 with or without Jamar. And you got to figure if Jamar Chase is showing up at practice, you saw him smiling real big for that team photo, he's happy with the way things are going. Does he want to get across the finish line? Absolutely. But we've seen some less than friendly contract negotiations and hold-ins over the years in the NFL. This isn't one of them. And by the way, this idea that the Bengals just aren't going to pay, who have they not paid? The only guy I can think of this century who they should have paid, and I'm sure there are more that I'm missing, but just off the top of my head right now, who they probably should have paid and didn't, is Jonathan Joseph, the cornerback who goes to Houston and ends up, having a really solid career there. And I don't know that he necessarily wanted to stay in Cincinnati anyways. So you just look back over the last few years. Everyone wanted Carl Lawson to re-sign. What was that, 2020? He's on the Cowboys practice squad now after the Jets gave him a pretty nice deal that the Bengals weren't willing to come close to. CJ Uzama. We all loved him on that Super Bowl run. Got like a, decent deal for him with the Jets, like 3 years, $20 million, something like that. He's bouncing around now. I don't think he has a job right now. And that was, 2 seasons ago. So all due respect to those guys. They were great Bengals. We appreciate them. TJ Hushmanzada. We love him. He's a Bengals legend. He'll probably be in the Ring of Honor one day. Goes, takes more money in Seattle. They cut him the following offseason. The Bengals have been really good about knowing who needs paid. And I mentioned those guys with all love and respect, especially TJ. TJ's the man. But they've been good about doing this. I saw someone, I think it was Ben Axelrod, who I went to college with and writes for Awful Announcing now, kind of make the comparison that the Bengals are the Cleveland Guardians when it comes to spending. They're smart about it. They're not. You look at the teams that just go out there willy-nilly and just these. I mean, this is a record-breaking deal. It's not just going to come together overnight. I mean, this is a massive, massive deal for a team that doesn't have all the money in the world, right? We all know they're not dealing with Jerry Jones money. They're not dealing with Walmart money out in Denver. They're dealing with one of the poorer franchises in all of sports, and that comes with, a little salt on it because being a poor sports franchise is still $1 billion business, but you get the point. People act like these things can just get thrown together. They got to figure out ways to make it work for both sides because while it looks nice to put out there the highest paid receiver in the NFL, this, that, the other, we got the guy and we got him for another 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it's going to be. There are other pieces of that pie that now don't go somewhere or to someone else. So I like the way the Bengals, for the most part, have spent their money in the past. I like that Jamar is still there. I think there is a world where both sides are happy with where this thing's at. They would like for it to be done, but at the end of the day, you got to make sure it's done right. So there's that. I think it's okay to say, hey, both sides are doing what they should here. We'll get there. So as soon as I post this podcast, they'll probably reach an agreement and all of that will become irrelevant. But again, man, it's the Bengals have done a really good job with knowing who to pay and when to pay them. And they know that they need to pay Jamar and he will get paid, but you got to make sure you do it in a way that keeps you afloat. So there's that. Wasn't really planning on talking about that today, but it's been on my mind. You guys know how it works if you're listening to this podcast. So we're going to close it up today. I'm going to have, today's Tuesday. On either Thursday night or Friday, I'll put out another one. Either way, it'll be, look for it Friday morning. So the schedule for this show is getting down pat, and it's going to be fun, man. Looking forward to the season as always. And yeah, if you like it, tell a friend, subscribe on YouTube, just give it a comment, just give me a hooday, give me a go Bengals, tell me, I need to put some Just for Gray or whatever it's called in my beard. Whatever you want to do, throw it out there. I'll be happy to see it, and we'll go from there. Trying to get the numbers up. It's a lot of fun. The more, I don't know why, it's like a video game for adults. So, all right, I'm Matt Edwards. I'm at Matt Edwards on Twitter. Also, if you want to give me a good comment, suggest what other social media I should be using, because I don't have anything else that I use for football, and I kind of hate, we'll call this one for the road today, I kind of hate getting trapped. I was talking to Jed DeMusi about this earlier. He's talking about Bengals fans this, Bengals fans that, and I was like, well, those are just Bengals fans on Twitter. My dad is the biggest Bengals fan you know. He doesn't post on Twitter. I got a good friend in Vegas. What's up, Mitch, if you're listening? He's a big Bengals fan. He doesn't post on Twitter. My friend Scotty over in Nashport, he doesn't post on Twitter. These are all Bengals fans I talk to the team about every single year. And like this idea that we're all on Twitter giving all our thoughts, no, it's such a small percentage. So is there another social media I need to be looking at? Should I just be, I'm not going to a bar to hang out with fans, but I would like to hear more sports opinions outside of that platform, which can kind of suck at times, and especially on that For You tab. That's where things get dark. But if there's something else I should be using to check out, I try to use YouTube more. Obviously, that's a little more of a time commitment, but I also think it's probably better information than just scroll. So let me know. That's one for the road. Twitter kind of sucks. Again, just ad-libbing a lot of things here. Hope you liked it. Tell me where I'm right or wrong in the comments when it comes to the playoffs. And by the way, couldn't be a big homer. Maybe you did the math. If you got the Chiefs and the Bengals going 12-5, that means I have the Chiefs beating the Bengals in week 2. When going through the schedule, that's how I marked it. I couldn't be major homer and have the Bengals getting 2 wins at Arrowhead this year, should they have ended up back there in the playoffs. So that's why I did that. Give me a break. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, I hope the Bengals go 17-0 and then another 3-0 in the playoffs, and we have a victory Super Bowl parade in Cincinnati and beers are consumed. It'll be a good time, right? So, all right, gonna stop rambling, get out of here. I'm at Matt Edwards on Twitter. I'll try to get something new if you suggest it. And yeah, if you like the podcast, tell a friend about it, subscribe, give it a rating, give me some Spotify ratings. I only have one on there. Would like to get those numbers up as well. So, all right, it's In the Jungle. We'll do it again soon. Thanks for tuning in.